not going to pretend that this is some perfect program where there's a perfect plan, or are seeing opportunities as a one-way ticket out of their country. For your host search, I would ask you to be strategic and pick or approach hosts who you feel will be strategically aligned with your envisioned career growth, and be upfront about that with them. So no, the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation is not obligated to, give you an employment. Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I haven't done this in a while. Sat down, shared information, knowledge with you all. It's good to be back. I was really busy in the past couple of weeks work-wise, and I thought I was going to vlog. It didn't quite work out the way I wanted to, but I did manage to shoot some content during one of our weekend explorations when we went to Dresden. Very short. I see though that a lot of people tend to enjoy these sit downs a little bit more. Let me know in the comment section what you think I should be leaning towards. A combination of vlogs and sit downs, or whether I should stick to the sit downs, or whether I should keep going, doing it the way that I have so far. Let me know in the comment section. Anyway, if you're new here, my name is dambisaintlungu, and welcome back to my returners. I love the support. I have been receiving a lot of emails, and I've also noticed that a lot of you who watch this unsubscribed. Let's help a girl get to 500 subscribers. Please, 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 please. It really would help me a great deal. And if anything, I think it's important that what I share reaches people. I've noticed from some of the things that I share on LinkedIn and my Instagram pages that people really want this type of content. They want this type of information. And by simply subscribing, you help me stay motivated, but it also brings more traffic to my channel. And who knows, it might reach people who need this type of help, information, advice. So for today's video, we're discussing the fellowship again. I've been getting a lot of questions. I've tried my best in several videos to get into some of the details. However, I felt the need to dive into the topic again today, specifically touching on beyond the fellowship. In the event that you are accepted, what can you expect once you finalize your fellowship? Is there even a risk in applying for a fellowship like this? We did an Instagram live last week, and a lot of people found it useful, and people also directly messaged me and asked me to do a video on this, and this is why I'm discussing it. So for those who don't have context about what I'm actually talking about, I'm referring to the German Chancellor Fellowship. So if you're watching and you're from India, China, South Africa, and India, then this fellowship is something that could be of interest for you. Maybe you are a mid-senior professional, maybe you just finished your degree and you're looking for an opportunity. This is an opportunity that's geared towards people who've demonstrated and have an interest in leading processes, people who are curious and are wanting to find solutions to all kinds of problems in the world. Doesn't matter what the thematic focus may be. This is me obviously overly summarizing it, but this is a fellowship that I'm currently doing. I'm at the end stages of my fellowship, and I'm one of the fellows from the 2022-2023 cohort. And we were the first South Africans who afforded this opportunity. And I know that now the second group of South Africans have applied and have been accepted. But we really want to spread the word and encourage more people to apply for it, because it's an amazing opportunity. I think we have a lot to share with the world, and in reverse also a lot to bring back to our country. And that brings me back to this topic. So let's discuss all things after return, reintegration, beyond the fellowship. So if you don't know what the fellowship is, I'd really advise that you watch my video where I discuss this at length. I will leave a link here for you to check out. But I think for the purpose of today's discussion, I really just want to stress to people that opportunities such as fellowships, scholarships abroad, internships, anything that has a timeline to it, maybe it's even a short-term contract, those type of opportunities that require you to uproot and leave your comfort zone for a certain amount of time, and it's a limited opportunity. Those opportunities will always come at a risk. And by that I mean you don't know what lies on the other side of that opportunity. You don't know even what you may experience. You don't even know if you'll enjoy it. And you're also not certain whether you're able to meet outcomes and outputs that you hope or intend to, at the beginning stages of your process. So when, to contextualize, when we applied, we had to come up with a project idea. And we were selected on the basis that, the selection panel found whatever we wanted to contribute to the academic space, to the professional world, valuable. And there were obviously set outputs for that. But there's no guarantee that you meet those outputs. Anyone who does academic work, that it's a dynamic process. Things can even change. Your ideas may even change. And so the fellowship, in as much as we do a lot of research work, it's also work. We have the day-to-day experience, and we immerse ourselves into a completely new work environment in a different context while navigating, integrating here personally as well. So if you are thinking of applying for the fellowship, please just bear in mind that, of course, it comes at a risk. The conditions in which people apply or take the leap are different. In my case, I resigned from my job. I did not have the option of taking a sabbatical. I did not have the option of taking unpaid leave. Sometimes there's some kind of setup that you can arrange with an employer where you still are able to work or do some, extend your tasks in some shape or form while you are doing a fellowship. I wasn't able to do that. That was not an option for me. And going into the application process, I was very aware of it and made the decision to come anyway. However, someone else may be watching and thinking, I have a job. It may not be my dream job, but I don't necessarily want to let go of a job to pursue a fellowship where I don't know, or there's no guarantee what lies at the end of it. So honestly, this is not a resign campaign. I'm not trying to push or motivate people to resign and leave their very comfortable circumstances. Mine is really just to shed light on maybe the thought process that I went through and, to make this kind of decision and how I have benefited from it. So I resigned, and I had a contract. I had contracts. I've had contracts throughout my career. I've never had a job that was permanent. So I was always used to every couple of years having to think about the next step. And so because that was how I entered into professional life, I've always been geared to think about, how does this particular role benefit me? How do I make sure that I make the most of my time in a certain role that can pivot me strategically to the next thing, because I'm on a contract. I don't have a permanent contract. And I think the nature of our sector, development, political work, is that it is dynamic and it's fast paced. So moving around, changing jobs, changing topics, changing expertise, changing, skills. Maybe one year you're working on a certain topic, then in the next 3 years you're working on another. That's the nature of the type of career I am in. And because of that, resigning my job to pursue this particular fellowship when I had to outweigh the pros and cons wasn't a daunting and scary task, because I would have had to have the same process anyway with my job, with my career growth. And so I took the leap because in my mind, I needed to grow differently. I had every intention to also learn from a different context differently. And I also wanted to take a bit of a step back from the context that I'd been working in for so long, still the same topic of youth development, but to really take a little bit of a step back and reevaluate what I wanted my contribution to be. And so that to me felt worthwhile. And I'm not even, talking about all the other stuff that comes with moving, all the benefits, on a personal growth level. Just professionally, for me, the step made sense, as opposed to, my contract comes to an end and I just move within the company, which would have been the other alternative. For me, it made sense to take the leap while I still can, while I still have the energy to do so, while my kids are still young, while there's this gap. And I felt, and the thought process for me at the time was, should I not be fulfilled at the end of it? Should I not meet my deliverables or my outputs? It would have still been worthwhile anyway, because I would have networked with people from all over the world. I would have expanded my knowledge. I would have stretched myself. I would have upskilled myself. And even if that came with discomfort, it would make me a better person and a better professional. And therefore, I'll be better suited to get the next job, and perhaps even a better job than the one that I had left. So that was my thought process. So yes, it did come with a risk, but it was a risk that I was willing to take considering my options. And I took it, and luckily I was accepted. And you may be sitting and thinking, okay, Dee, a year later, are you satisfied? Did it meet your expectations? And it 110% did. I think in many ways it has reaffirmed the things about myself, the characteristics about myself that maybe I wasn't ready to face. It has also strengthened certain attributes, traits. It has also strengthened me professionally. I've done a lot of observing during my fellowship. I've done a lot of reading. I've done a lot of taking a step back. I've done a lot of interviewing, so listening to others, hearing, gaining insights. I've done less of centering my own opinions or centering my ideas. Yes, I've been leading a process, but I've been leading a process differently, and I've only benefited from that. So for me, it was worth it. It was 1,010% worth it. Now, for anybody else who's still maybe on the fence, doesn't really know yet, deadline is coming up, so I think you should make up your mind quite soon. But if you may be watching this in the future, maybe it's important also to highlight what type of support you do have as an alumni beyond the fellowship. So just to keep it candid, there is no guarantee of a job once you finalized your fellowship. There's also no guarantee that you'll be retained by your host or the organization that you work for or the organization that's supporting you while you're here. So in your host search, I would ask you to be strategic and pick or approach hosts who you feel will be strategically aligned with your envisioned career growth, and be upfront about that with them, because I think it can only benefit you in the long run. They may not necessarily give you the job, but they may refer you. You know, they may connect you, they may network you with potential future employers. So be smart about that. So no, the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation is not obligated to, give you an employment. The other thing we really need to be candid about is that although this fellowship is something that is done in collaboration and is financed by the Foreign Office, there isn't really a formalized process with our own Foreign Office structures, government representatives in our respective countries. Yes, they are aware of this program and in many ways, of course, endorse it, but it can feel a little bit disjointed from maybe other exchange programs that are happening in your respective countries. In the South African context, we went to go see the ambassador, and he also told us that they were not really included in the process. Yes, they're aware of it, but in terms of the ideation and how much influence they have in terms of how to support us before and after the fellowship, it doesn't exist. That type of partnership does not exist. So it's unfortunate because it means that you're kind of on your own once the fellowship ends. You need to be smart about your next step. We could spend all day critiquing that. I know I definitely do in my personal spaces, and perhaps that needs its own video. But the point I'm trying to stress here is that you're on your own. So you take the risk not knowing what comes beyond that. However, what the foundation does do is that they have a bunch of grants, initiatives, networking opportunities, study trip opportunities that are available only for alumni. So if you are an Alexander von Humboldt Fellow or were an Alexander von Humboldt Fellow, you please go have a look at the alumni section. I'll leave a link below for those who are just curious what that means. They have a bunch of opportunities for alumni like myself. I will be in a few months. You can tap into those funds. Of course, funding like that, grant opportunities like that are not available to everybody. However, it is a really cool way of ensuring that we continue to network. It's a nice way of continuing to do the work. Sometimes you feel maybe at the end of your fellowship that you haven't quite been able to meet the mark in terms of what you wanted to do, and you want to continue to do that work. You're able to then tap into those funds. I know that there's also flexibility in terms of the timeline of your fellowship. So the fellowship is 12 months. However, you are required to finalize within a 24-month period. So there's a flexibility. And what that means is you can break down your 12 months into 24 in any shape or form in those 24 months. And that can give people flexibility to do other things in between that will then benefit them and their professional growth beyond the fellowship. Now, sometimes people want to finish their studies, so they have a gap in between, they go do that. Sometimes people have a work commitment in between, for a few months. They arrange that with their host, they agree. The only thing that you need to really be transparent about is whatever that setup looks like within your 24-month flexibility or flexible timeline that you communicate this with your hosts. This is another clever way to position yourself for the next opportunity. So to summarize, you're kind of on your own. You have to be very smart about that. You need to really introspect prior to applying. We're not going to pretend that this is some perfect program where there's a perfect plan. You as an individual influence, whatever comes next for you. I've been a coordinator for programs where we weren't strong on the alumni support. And so this is something I'm always hypersensitive to, and I know a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are seeing opportunities as a one-way ticket out of their country, out of desperation, and don't put much thought into the what next. Some people are willing to take those kind of risks, but others really need to think about it. And I'm here to just be very upfront with you and say that you have to have a plan. And yes, plans change, but I think you're far more better prepared for what comes next when you've thought about it before and you continue to think about it in between. While you're doing your fellowship, network, connect with people, talk to people. So many people get jobs through networking. Every single opportunity I've ever gotten is through networking. And so I think that's an underestimated value of this fellowship. And you'll find that you do more networking when you are doing something of this nature rather than when you're in your day-to-day. So the pros for me outweigh the cons. It's a risk, but it's a worthwhile risk. So you're on your own. Make use of your networking opportunities while you're here. Research your opportunities for alumni before, even during. I mean, I forgot I had to go back and revisit. And then be smart during your timeline or your time spent here, that you really dedicate a couple of months prior to even leaving the country to aggressively pursuing opportunities, and not to leave that to the last minute. So that is my advice for people who are considering to apply for the fellowship and are still a bit skeptical about specifically what lies on the other end. From my cohort, I mean, we're all going to be doing different things. Some of us are working back in our home countries. For me, that's the ideal, to go back, to plow back, to pay it forward. Sometimes those opportunities are scarce. Others have been retained here in Germany by their hosts because they were strategic in who they selected in their time here. Other people are going to take a risk and maybe study further. Other people are going to maybe travel some more. Other people change their plans altogether. So really, the world's your oyster. It does always come at some risk. And I think you only stand to benefit from taking some chances, So that's the beyond the fellowship experience, the alumni experience. And good luck if you're considering to apply. I definitely can vouch for this program. I think the independent style and the independent nature of such an opportunity only positions a person to grow if you're present for it. And you'll then be far more employable beyond that. Contact me, hit me up, always willing to connect. Don't be afraid to ask some hard questions. I wish I had somebody like that prior to applying, to just ask some questions and to brainstorm maybe some of my ideas. I'm here for it, and see you on the next video. I hope this was helpful and insightful for those who are considering to apply, and catch you next time.